is an important night as we share with you our plans for our next steps. We are excited to share these updates with everyone together at the same time. Tonight, we'll hear from Rabbi Schwab, who will share a high holiday update, from President Ron Goldberg, who will share a financial update, from Executive Director Jeff Baden, who will give a facilities and schools update, and from the head of our Bethel Medical Task Force, Dr. Jeff Kopin, who will share a message on behalf of our medical task force. Following Rabbi Schwab's final comments, we will open up the Q&A. If you asked a question in advance, thank you for doing so. If you would like to submit a question tonight, please enter it in the Q&A button on your screen. Do not use the chat function, which will be disabled tonight. And when we get to the questions, I will attempt to combine some questions that may be related in order to make things more efficient. Tonight's session will be recorded, just the speakers on the screen. And if you have a question after tonight, feel free to contact any one of us by email. Tonight, we'll share with you our current plans for the future. But please keep in mind that as the health situation changes, our synagogue plans will too. I want to set a frame that I hope will be helpful. Imagine you're getting ready for a trip and you want to know what the weather is going to be like. So 10 days out, you check the weather for a first glance. Instinctively, you know that with 10 days to go, things may stay the same, but you won't be surprised if the weather patterns change. And this is why you'll check the weather again right before the trip. Consider tonight our 10-day forecast. We are 3 months away from the high holidays and the start of the school year, which is a lot of time for the health situation to change. We hope for the better. We are sincere in our commitments to be prepared and to prepare for excellence. We are committed to being transparent in our planning with you, which tonight demonstrates. We plan to stay in touch with you and to organize a forum like this in August with another congregational update. And we are excited about our future in whatever form it takes. And speaking of excited, I now turn it over to Bethel's most enthusiastic leader, Rabbi Michael Schwab, to reflect on the last few months and to share a high holiday update. Rabbi Schwab.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Freedman. It's so nice of you. And really, I want to thank all of you for coming. It's so nice to have such a nice turnout and to have so many people who are interested about the future of Bethel and what's happening here in our synagogue. These past few months have certainly been challenging, and I really want to wish you and your loved ones blessings for health and well-being. However, while the challenge has certainly been great, I want to take a moment to reflect on what I think was a most impressive response from Bethel. We turned our brick and mortar shul into a thriving virtual community in a matter of days and weeks. For example, my fellow clergy and I, with the support of the other staff and lay leaders, were able to pivot to a full schedule of online prayer services for weekdays, twice a day, Shabbatot, holidays, so that our shul community remains strong and those in mourning could continue to say Kaddish and all of us could celebrate Shabbat and holidays. Our educators found ways to run our schools, to provide adult education, and to produce incredible congregational programs. I'm sure many of you attended. The numbers of those who logged on over these past 3 months was truly amazing. Our communications director, with support from staff and lay leaders, transformed our website and our publications to make everything we do accessible with just a click. Essentially, we truly are as busy as we ever were, and we're connecting with congregants in large numbers on a daily basis. And I want to say that our truest colors came out in how we responded to the needs of our most vulnerable members. An army of volunteers called and are still calling our entire membership, and most especially our vulnerable members, assessing needs, shopping for the homebound, bringing medicines, food, Shabbat meals, and protective equipment to those who are vulnerable, and even driving people to essential appointments. These last few months, We have demonstrated that we are indeed a valuable, compassionate, and caring community, which always supports one another. And it makes me so proud. The same drive and spirit that made everything I just mentioned a reality powers everything that we're doing to plan for the future as well. I and the entire Bethel leadership pledge that everything that we do will be based on the following three principles. Number one, we will always put the safety and well-being of our congregants, our staff, and our community first. Number two, we are always committed to excellence. We pledge to ceaselessly search for and work towards the very best approach to any service that we offer and any program that we run. And three, without question, we will always be committed to Jewish tradition. In whatever we do, our Jewish values, our laws, and our customs will be foremost in our minds. As you all know from riding the roller coaster of information and regulations surrounding the pandemic, the community health outlook is certainly fluid, and the parameters in which we must plan are not in our hands alone. That is why right away we established a medical task force led by Dr. Jeffrey Kopin, trustee of Bethel and medical director of Lake Forest Hospital, to guide us down this ever-developing path to ensure we're always keeping our congregation safe. He is here tonight and will say a few words and will be available as part of the Q&A. As of this moment, we are in phase 3 of the governor's plan. That has meant no gatherings of more than 10 people, especially inside. Therefore, the building has been closed for services and programs, though we have been conducting outdoor in-person minyanim in our gorgeous backyard, and of course, as mentioned, produced an incredible amount of online programming. Phase 4, which many of you know we enter into tomorrow, currently allows 50 people to gather. It is true that for various reasons you may have heard, places of worship have been given permission, if they wish, to have up to 100 people, if their facility is large enough. For now, our medical task force has discouraged us taking advantage of that leniency because transmission indoors is still a risk not worth taking at this point. Regardless, 50 to 100 people is certainly not enough to allow us to hold in-person services in our building that will accommodate the majority of our congregation for the high holidays, even in shifts, nor even to accommodate the amount of people who generally come on a Shabbos morning. So right now, we are working in 2 different directions for the high holidays. Here's the first. Assuming the metrics and numbers allowed in phase 4 will not be changed by the governor between now and the high holidays, we will surely need to live stream our services. Therefore, we have already contracted to purchase and install top-of-the-line live streaming system for our sanctuary. This will greatly enhance our experience and your experience of our services as you join from home. We want to thank the Schreier and Hers family for making this possible. With this in place, we'll be able to conduct a full service in the Field Family Sanctuary from our Bima. Those who are leading the service and their immediate family will form the in-person minyan, clergy, prayer leaders, Torah readers, etc. And we plan to conduct our services at the highest level with your at-home experience in mind, designing the format to maximize participation. While aspects of the format will certainly be different, the service will still adhere to traditional guidelines and will be a service that fulfills all of our religious obligations. At the same time, it will definitely be shorter, as there will be no Torah procession throughout the whole sanctuary, no choir, shorter speaking moments, and less congregational readings. And we will make sure that there is an accompanying guide to give congregants the timing for each part of the service to help you follow and tune in. This year, no different from any of the others, you can still expect the highlights of any Bethel High Holiday service. Thoughtful and engaging words of Torah from your rabbis, the beautiful davening of Chazan Tisser, the fabulous singing of some of our youth soloists, skilled Torah and Haftarah readings from our members, reflective moments of private prayer, and meaningful moments of congregational singing, albeit a little bit in a different way than normal. The second option that we might follow is only viable if the regulations change, and our task force thinks it's safe to allow for significantly more people to be present in person inside of our building. In that scenario, we would run 2 shifts for each service, with the exception of Ne'ilah. We would still live stream as well for anyone who does not feel safe coming in person. In such a scenario, we would also follow all the safety protocols, which currently include masks, health screenings requiring hand washing and sanitizing, and of course, physical distancing. All the principles in scenario 1 would apply here too, though the service may need to be condensed a bit more in this scenario, especially on Yom Kippur, to accommodate 2 shifts. Further, our educators are planning wonderful virtual children's services and activities around and during the high holidays for each segment of our population. Families with preschool children, younger elementary, older elementary, as well as preteens and teens. We care about our congregants of all ages and will make the experience meaningful for our youngest and our oldest members, as well as everyone in between. That is our pledge. In addition, our staff and lay leaders are planning as we speak to make the entire experience of the high holiday season more meaningful. This may include special online classes, a gift for each family to make the holiday more special, neighborhood shofar blowings, and more. If you have any ideas of how Bethel can make the high holidays or anything we do more meaningful for you or our other congregants, please do feel free to reach out and share with us. The high holidays, and frankly, everything we offer at our synagogue, are important, and we are here to provide those experiences at the highest level, no matter what the situation is. Just as we have over these past few months, we will remain the robust and vibrant synagogue community that is definitely our trademark. Indeed, there is much uncertainty, but you can count on Bethel to be there for its membership no matter what. And we hope that just as we are working hard to be there for you, that you will be there for us by making sure to fill out your membership renewal as soon as you can. The pandemic will end, but the value of being part of Bethel will always remain. It promises to be a wonderful year, and I cannot wait to experience 5781 with each and every one of you. I'm now going to turn it back to Rabbi Freedman.
Thank you, Rabbi Schwab. And in these uncertain times, I am reassured by the fact that you are the captain of our ship, leading us in public and behind the scenes. Thank you for all that you've done and all that you do. We're now going to hand it over to our president, Ron Goldberg, to deliver a financial update.
Thanks, Rabbi Freedman, and welcome everyone. It's amazing to see so many people participating. That's wonderful. Thank you. My friends, I want to update you on our financial situation. At our April board meeting, the board passed a normal balanced budget for this next fiscal year, which starts July 1st. We knew we would have to make contingency plans due to the pandemic, but we wanted to have a normal budget to use as a starting point. So at the April meeting, we announced plans to form a contingency budget task force to recommend specific steps to take to maintain balanced budgets in the face of COVID-19. And this plan was endorsed by the board. The task force has been meeting weekly since early May. It's comprised of congregants with financial expertise in situations like this, as well as staff, lay leaders, and clergy. They've put in a lot of time, and while I won't mention each of them by name, I'm most grateful for their excellent work. The task force looked at the 2 most likely scenarios. First, we looked at our finances if Governor Pritzker moved us to phase 4, which of course he did. Being the very clever task force that we are, we called this scenario phase 4. In phase 4, things start to ease up a bit, and we're allowed to open our schools in the fall. Some programs, however, that we count on for revenue are still impacted. These include things like summer camp, which, as you know, was canceled. We're also very well aware that members of our congregation have been hurt financially, and we took into account that some may request a reduction in dues. In phase 4 scenario, we believe that by prudent cost cutting and other steps, like postponing or canceling some projects or events, we can smartly balance our budget. The second scenario we prepare for is our worst case scenario. In this case, we revert back to phase 3 and do not open until January. Key areas we've counted on to help fund Bethel are severely impacted. Chief among them are our dues and our preschool. The preschool is a significant source of revenue and profit, and it funds so much of the rest of the schools in the synagogue. And if it's closed until January, it hurts. We recognize too that in phase 3, many more of our members will be hurting financially too. It will impact our daily lives, and for Bethel, it will impact our dues. Dues make up 40% of our revenue and would be down much more dramatically if we revert back to phase 3. Other fundraising like the Kol Nidre appeal would suffer too. But whether we're in phase 3 or phase 4, we knew we'd have to make plans to cut expenses in order to make up for lost revenues. Now, some cuts are easy to identify. For example, by not opening summer camp, we save money by not hiring counselors. Of course, we lose the revenue from opening camp. When we began the contingency process, we estimated that if we were in phase 3 until January, we would be down $1.1 million. That was where we started. Working together with the staff, who were phenomenal, we have identified savings and steps we can take to actually close the gap and balance the budget. As you know, many Jewish organizations and organizations of all kinds have made across-the-board cuts in people and salaries to balance their budgets. Well, you just heard Rabbi Schwab talk about our caring community. At Bethel, our caring community includes our employees. If cuts in staff happen here, it will be because they're unavoidable, like not paying preschool teachers if preschool is closed. But we set out to try and balance the budget without across-the-board cuts in people and salaries. And I'm proud we took this approach. More than that, I'm happy to say that if our contingency expense cuts are in the ballpark, we will do it. Finally, I must reemphasize that the single most important variable in all of this is our dues. Your dues. As I said, dues are 40% of our income. So if you believe in Rabbi Schwab's vision and the future of Bethel, if you believe we can help ensure a future, a Jewish future for our children and grandchildren, then I ask you please, to the best of your ability in this difficult year, make your dues commitment. If you need an adjustment, please just reach out to our executive director, Jeff Baden. We will work something out that meets your unique financial needs. And we will do so with respect, with understanding, and with full confidentiality. Thanks for listening. I'll turn it back to Rabbi Freedman.
Ron, thanks so much. It's hard to remember that you're not on staff here because we see you every day, we work with you every day. You give so much time, but so much wisdom as well. Thank you. We're now going to hear from our executive director, Jeff Baden, who will share a facilities and school update.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be with you this evening, and I hope everyone is well and taking good care of themselves during these very unusual times. As Rabbi Schwab mentioned, we will be entering phase 4 of the governor's plan for reopening the state of Illinois tomorrow. As we develop our plans for opening some of our programs and services, we'll be guided by the CDC, the State of Illinois Department of Public Health, the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services, and our own medical task force that Rabbi Schwab spoke about a little earlier. The safety of our members, preschool families, and staff will guide all opening decisions that we make. Everything we do will be well thought out and done slowly and cautiously. With this said, our medical task force has given us the okay to provide outdoor services as long as everyone is wearing a mask, everyone is spaced at least 6 feet apart, and that we don't exceed the limits mandated by the state. We are very fortunate to have a beautiful outdoor space overlooking the lake, and if you haven't signed up for one of our morning or evening minyanim, I encourage you to do so. It's really a beautiful experience. As mentioned, Phase 4 gives us the opportunity to expand our numbers to 50 participants. We are in the midst of developing our plan to slowly open up the building for not only services, but some programs and classes, as well as our preschool and religious school in September. We have already ordered protective gear such as masks, hand sanitizer, face shields, protective gowns, and touchless thermometers in anticipation of the time that we'll be able to safely and slowly start using the building. We are using the summer to carefully plan for the reopening of our preschool and religious schools in September. Barring any setback to the governor's plan, we do believe that we can open all 3 of our schools under Phase 4, and here's how we plan to do it. First of all, as of last Friday, the Department of Children and Family Services had eased the child care regulations, making it much easier for us to have a full opening this September. We also have been in close contact with our DCFS examiner, and he will be guiding us all along the way. While safe distancing protocols will be put in place for drop-off and pickup, we will make sure to have enough staff on hand to ensure that it is efficient and smooth. As of now, we will be required to take the temperatures of all children and caregivers dropping off, and currently DCFS is recommending masks be worn by children over the age of 2, but they are not mandatory. Of course, our staff will be wearing masks and in some cases using face shields and wearing protective gowns or aprons. One benefit to your children at Bethel that really sets us apart is that because so few other programs will be happening in the building, our maintenance staff will be specifically assigned to the school wing during school hours and continually work to keep surfaces and bathrooms clean. While it will be difficult to social distance with the little ones, we will arrange our furniture in the schools to provide as safe distance as possible. We are fortunate to have very nice, large rooms, and the kids will be able to use all of our major programming spaces, including the Blumberg Hall, the new Zell Activity Center, and the Youth Lounge. During the fall months, we will be holding as many of our classes as possible outside, utilizing our new outdoor playscape and the back lawn. Our schools are also planning for the possibility of a resurgence in COVID-19 by September or even during the school year. Because of this, we are researching and trying out other online platforms besides Zoom, such as Shutterfly, Remind, and FaceTime. Regardless whether we are in person, online, or a combination of both, I want to assure you that our school programs will be done with the quality and care you expect and deserve from Bethel, and that your kids will learn and have a great time. Because we are so fortunate to have a huge, well-ventilated prayer space, especially when we open up the walls of the Field Family Sanctuary, the Passett, and the Blumberg Hall, we believe we can safely accommodate up to 50 people in the building. It will certainly not be exactly the same as you are used to. Congregants will be required to wear masks, and hand sanitizer will be easily accessible everywhere. Singing out loud may be restricted, as we have been advised that singing produces a much higher percentage of droplets than normal speech. We may or may not take temperatures, but we will be prepared to do so if our medical task force recommends it. As always, if you are not feeling well in any way, we hope that you would stay home. Many have asked me about bathrooms. With the addition of our new single occupancy, non-gender bathrooms in the Zell South Wing, we believe that we have more than enough different restrooms in the building to open safely with 50 people. Our maintenance staff will be on hand to clean them regularly, and our medical staff force does not believe that it will pose any safety threat at all. In closing, I did want to mention to you that during this time where the building has been closed, our maintenance team has been working hard to really spruce up the building. They have cleaned and sanitized everything and have been doing painting and repairs throughout. And in August, the school wing roof will be replaced. When you are able to return to the building, you will find that we also have a newly installed working elevator in the Zell South Wing, and there will be new directional signage throughout the building. Finally, even though the building has been closed, Bethel certainly has never closed. While we are working on our present situation, we are still focused on the future. We currently have over 40 Bethel members helping us complete our 3 to 5 year strategic plan, which we hope to finish over the summer. They are working on all aspects of the synagogue, from operational effectiveness and communications, leadership and governance, relational Judaism, the engagement of young families, and the tefillah experience. We are all so excited to be able to report our plans for the future to you in the coming months. Finally, recently, religious organizations were deemed essential services. It's kind of funny because our community has always known this about Bethel. We are seriously an essential service. I'm sure we will all be together soon, so please take care of yourselves and be safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff, for sharing. And thank you, Jeff, for always being 2 steps ahead and helping us plan so well during these crazy times. From one Jeff to another, we're now going to hear from Dr. Jeff Kopin, who is the head of the Bethel Medical Task Force, as well as the Wake Forest Hospital Chief Medical Officer, who will share a message from our Bethel Medical Task Force.
Good evening, everybody, and hopefully, there I go. I hope this finds everyone in good health. I hope everyone has been able to deal as well as possible with these incredible times of COVID. I have to tell you that on behalf of our medical task force that includes Dr. Lori Hochberg, Dr. Ariel Levitan, and Nurse Ronnie Weiss, we've been so impressed with the leadership, the professional leadership and the lay leadership of Bethel, their great insights into how to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic, and the way that they've been able to translate the health concerns for our community into the programming and the decision-making for how Bethel should be able to conduct itself. I will tell you that everything you've heard this evening is based on the best knowledge that we have about COVID, how to deal with COVID. I want to stress a couple of things, and this is true for Bethel, and please, it should be true for how we deal with going out in the world every day. Masks really make a difference. Speaking today towards the end of June, I will tell you that our knowledge of COVID and how it's transmitted is far greater than it was back in March, when in one of the saddest moments of my life, Rabbi Schwab and I decided that we needed to close the synagogue. This is something I never again hope that I have to be involved in making a decision to do. But when I compare what we knew in the middle of March with what we know today, this virus is transmitted in the breath, the exhaled breath of an individual who's infected with the virus. Hence the need to wear masks. If you go into any room, any public place, and people are not wearing masks, please leave. Do not go in. It is dangerous. When we talk about opening up the building eventually and having people to come in for davening or other activities, we're going to require that people wear masks for this reason. Masks really work. The other thing that works is physical distancing, a term I far prefer to social distancing. We've been physically apart for far too long. Thankfully, because of our shul, we haven't been socially apart. We've only been physically apart. That works too. The droplets that's caused when we breathe only go a certain distance. Hence the reason to have social distance, physical distance when we're together. So I just want to assure everyone that we're using the best knowledge of COVID-19 as we continue to make the policy decisions for Bethel. I wish everyone only good health, harbe briut, and we're going to get through this together.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kopin. You get Bethel so well. And thank you for looking both after our health and the needs of our community. We are approaching the portion of the evening when we get a chance to ask questions. And I remind everybody the way to do so is to look at the button at the bottom of the screen, it says Q&A, and type a question, and we will answer it in the course of the evening. Once again, I may combine some of them that are related just to make things a little more efficient. And right now, I'll turn it back to Rabbi Schwab to share some closing remarks for this portion of our program.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Freedman. I want to thank all of my lay and professional colleagues for their amazing dedication and hard work in helping me to navigate Bethel through these unprecedented times. Through your dedication, your creativity, and your love, I've seen the beautiful essence of our community, which makes a difference in the lives of its members. While no one can predict the details of the future, what is certain to me is that this community is valuable and special. I will now turn it back over to Rabbi Freedman as we take questions from all of you. But please always remember, we are here for you. Rabbi Freedman?
Thanks, Rabbi Schwab. Once again, the button at the bottom of Q&A is where you can enter a question. I'm now going to ask our panelists several questions that were submitted in advance, and then we will resume with the live questions. The first question is for Rabbi Schwab. What is the plan for Bethel and life cycle events?
Thank you for whoever asked that question. So first of all, I just want to share with you, if you didn't know already, that we have been doing funerals for anybody who unfortunately needs that and those families and supporting them. And so I have attended at the cemetery. It's outdoors, and God forbid that should happen to anybody during this pandemic. Bethel is there for you. We'll be there for you at the cemetery in person. At the cemeteries, they're observing all the protocols. So we feel that it's safe. We wear the masks. We physically distance, just as Dr. Kopin explained. And I've helped each and every family create a Shiva experience over Zoom, whether they join the Bethel Zoom minion or whether we create a private Zoom minion for Shiva as well. Secondly, when it comes to weddings and baby namings or other private life cycle events, we've been given permission, certainly to use the outdoors, to have a wedding or a naming on our beautiful back lawn. And if the weather doesn't work or somebody wants to use the inside, as Jeff Baden explained, we can accommodate up to 50 people inside of Bethel, using all the protocols, of course, that Dr. Kopin mentioned. And so if you are indeed scheduling a wedding or you are indeed trying to schedule a baby naming, we can do those things inside the building. And in fact, there are a few weddings coming up at Bethel. And while we can't do food service, we cannot do food service, we do have Circle of Life Catering operating. I hope that many of you have ordered from Laura Frankel, her wonderful Shabbat dinners. If you haven't, you should. But she can also make food for you to take out with you if you are scheduling an event at Bethel during this time. You can take it home or to wherever it is that you're going to celebrate with your individual family. So I hope that answered the question.
Thank you, Rabbi Schwab. The next question is for Jeff Baden. And that is, when will religious school dues be shared? Membership fees and school dues used to be sent together.
Yeah, that's a good question. We decided this year just to send out our regular dues scheduled to get them out. We are still in the process. We have a special task force looking at both our preschool and our religious school and our safe opening procedures. So I anticipate that we will actually be sending out due statements for both programs once we've firmed everything up, and it will probably be right at the beginning of August, just so that everyone knows.
Thank you, Jeff. The next question is for Rabbi Schwab, and that is, will services be streamed? And we heard the answer, that the answer is yes. Again, this is asked ahead of time. And if so, will Shabbat services be streamed too?
Great question. So as you know, or I think as you know, we've been doing Zoom. It's called the webinar format for Shabbat services to date. Once we have all of the equipment installed in the sanctuary and understand how to use it properly, and once summer services, which are run by our lay people, conclude, our plan is at this point to start conducting our Shabbat services from the Bima using the live stream equipment instead of over that Zoom webinar format. So yes, the answer is that our plan is that moving forward, we will be doing our using live stream, our new live stream equipment to do Shabbat services. God willing, one day when we enter into the final phase and we can have everybody back in the sanctuary, those type of services won't be as needed. But that is the plan, to move from the Zoom webinar format to the live streaming from our Bima format at the end of summer services.
Thank you. Our next question is for Ron. We are wondering about high holiday locations, and if services will be virtual, will the membership fees be reduced?
The answer is no. We're providing, we anticipate that some people won't be able to pay their dues in full. If you're not going to be paying your dues in full, just reach out to Jeff Baden and we'll work something out that makes sense for you. But we will not be reducing dues across the board.
Thank you, Ron. Rabbi Schwab, this is for you. Well, Machzorim, these are the prayer books used for the high holidays. Will they be available for pickup to use for the live stream prayer service? How will people utilize prayer books for the high holidays?
Another great question. The answer is yes, you will definitely be able to pick up your Machzorim. And in fact, if our full plan is realized, we'd love to create an opportunity for either us to create different drop-off points or to create a special moment out of the whole congregation being able to pick up their Machzorim, and perhaps even be able to give that Machzor as a gift to everybody. So we will make plans to make sure that every single Bethel person, should they want a Machzor, will be able to have one, because it's a really important way to, of course, engage and follow the service. And that is something that we have thought about, and we'll definitely make sure that everyone gets their Machzor one way or the other.
Excellent, but let's make sure not to give everyone my Machzor with all of my notes, because then I think we'll all be in trouble. So if you get my name in it, then I want that one back. Rabbi Schwab, the next one is for you as well. Will the live stream allow those watching from home to be able to see 10 Jewish faces in order to say Kaddish if they need to?
Yeah, so the live stream, from what we understand, we haven't had the equipment yet, but our understanding of the equipment is that it allows us with different views to be able to not only see the Bima, but also to see the minyan of people who will be in the sanctuary with us, and therefore to create the 10 on screen that will be able enable us to say Kaddish according to the tshuva that I wrote. But I will say this, that because there's 10 people in person, right, there already is a minyan established. Whether people see them on the screen or not, the minyan has been established and others can join in. In fact, there's a rabbinical assembly tshuva that dates back that people could even call in on their phone to an already established minyan, and they can count and say Kaddish. So as long as there's an established in-person minyan, and there will be a fully constituted in-person minyan, anybody watching and can join in and be a part of that as well. But the camera should be able to pan in and catch the congregation as well.
Thanks, Rabbi Schwab. Dr. Kopin, this one's for you. There are actually 3 questions about masks, which I will let you handle. One is, will you be requiring a specific type of mask to be worn in the building? Related, how do you assess face shields versus masks? And if children are not masked, how do we expect to stop the spread to other children and teachers?
So how do we know if a mask actually is effective? Remember, we wear masks not for our own protection. We wear masks for the protection of others. So when you put on a mask, the best way to tell if it is effective is simply hold your hand a couple of inches in front of the mask and breathe out. If you feel the air come out, that's not a good enough mask. So anything will work. There's just some types of material that will not work, and there's some kind of what look like surgical masks. They're just not very well made. So just try that test with your hand. It's really very simple. Now, masks versus face shields work. As a matter of fact, In the hospital, when we take care of COVID patients and go into their rooms, we wear both procedure masks and we wear face shields. The face shields will protect not only other people, but it will keep the possibility of droplets getting into the eyes. It's not necessary when we go out, but if somebody wanted to wear a face shield, that would be fine. The whole issue of children in masks. This is very difficult. Those of us that have children and grandchildren, raise kids, the whole idea of children having to wear masks all the time is very difficult. Some of the guidance talks about kids only over the age of 10 wearing masks. We'll see where this falls out once we get more real experience with children in masks. The good news is that the prevalence of infection in children is quite low. It does happen, but it is low. So I don't think we have to be as concerned about the kids in masks as we do adults.
Thank you, Dr. Kopin. Jeff Baden is a question about preschool. It sounds like there'll be preschool, whether phase 3 online or phase 4, hopefully in person. If so, why will the worst case lead to decreased revenue from the preschool? Do you expect less students, or will you charge less tuition?
With preschool, if we do an online version, we would probably reduce our school fees, and that's something that would be discussed. We did try to do online preschool in April and May, and it worked, and it was quality, but we realized that we weren't able to do 3 hours a day. We weren't able to provide a lot of the things like snacks and things like that. So if we were going to do an online preschool, the fee would definitely be reduced over what it would be for in-person.
Thank you. And another question about preschool. Can you please share more details about plans for the current religious school in terms of preparing for more virtual learning, that is, training staff appropriate to do so, as well as smaller class size and social distancing? Should in-person be an option? Would there be an option for both? Should families prefer a remote option?
Yeah, we were actually talking about the possibility of both and giving choices. I know a lot of the public schools are sending out surveys now to see what parents' comfort level is versus in-person and virtual, and some of them are considering doing both. We're looking at that also. We're spending the summer researching different platforms so that we can be prepared to offer complete in-person if we're comfortable doing that, or a combination of the two.
Thank you. This question is for Dr. Kopin and perhaps Rabbi Schwab. In stage 4, beginning tomorrow, is the age limit of 65 discontinued for attending services?
If it's okay with Rabbi Schwab, I'll take that. The answer is no. We're not ready to allow people over the age of 65 to come into the show. And here is why. We now have the experience in the United States since March of over 2 million people being infected with COVID. Of the people who've been infected with COVID, 80% are under the age of 65. I'll say that again. 80% of those infected with COVID-19 in the United States are under the age of 65. However, 80% of those who have died of COVID infection are over the age of 65. So just think about that for a moment. If you're over 65, you have to be very careful. Every individual has to do his or her own risk-benefit calculation on any activity. If you're young and you're healthy, there's much less risk, even if you get infected. But if you're older and you have comorbidities, if you have chronic illnesses, you have to be very, very prudent about where you go. And being in an inside space with other people Even our beautiful sanctuary with all the doors open is not yet a safe place for you to be from a health standpoint.
Thank you. This question is for Hazan Barnett and Dr. Gajman, our educators. Is there some material that you can provide to families with teens as opposed to kids? Although I'm going to just add in kids because many of our families have kids for the high holidays, as they probably won't stay focused on a Zoom for as long as an adult, but we need something to help them connect. What are some thoughts about children's and teens high holiday programming?
Hello. Hello from Pittsburgh. So I know there will be children's programming, there'll be children's services and other programming both at the same time as services and in between. And there will be special materials. I know that Allie Drum, who's Director of Informal Education, and I have met a couple times. We're going to have actually a resource kit or resource bag for different kids of different ages to participate and enhance their experience during the high holidays. So just that, hopefully that answers at least a little bit. And I know there will be things for teens as well, so.
Thank you, Hazan Barnett. A question for Jeff Baden about preschool. It's really two. One, would preschool be able to offer lunch, snack, or enrichments? And the second, would preschool kids be in school from 9 to 12, or would the schedule be staggered so there are fewer kids in the school each day?
So I'm going to take question number, the second question first. Right now, the state guidelines allow us to run our program during that entire time, from 9 to 12, like a normal 3-hour day. But we do have this task force that's going to be looking at our safe opening, and we will follow the recommendations of our medical committee, and they make some recommendations to stagger or do something like that, and we will follow what the procedures are. As far as food, it actually goes the same way. We're going to be looking at all options for food and enrichment programs, but right now we believe that we probably will not have a lunch enrichment program as part of our day.
Thanks, Jeff.
There will be snacks, though. We are planning to have snacks, though.
Can't do anything without feeding those kids.
That's
Or,
right.
or their parents. Rabbi Schwab, this is for you. Is Hazan Billy Wiesel taking part in any of the high holiday services?
Yes, that's a good question. Billy and I have been, Hazan Wiesel and I have been in close contact. It makes all of us sad that he's not going to be able to make the trip from Israel to the States to be with us. And so he will not be taking part in the actual high holiday services themselves during Yontif on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. He will, need to stay in Israel. We had a long conversation about even if it was possible for him to fly and for us to have him here for his own health benefit to sustain that, across the Atlantic Ocean flight was not something that he and his doctor recommended. But what we are planning to do, this is a plan and not a guarantee because everything is still in the planning phase, is to try to have Hazan Wiesel be a part of some of the pre-high holiday experiences that I was talking about, maybe for a concert of some kind, maybe to help us with slichot services. But he is definitely in our planning because we're all going to miss having him as a part of our the meat and potatoes of our high holiday services. So we'll definitely get him in somewhere.
Thank you. Rabbi Schwab, another one about the high holidays. How will the split high holiday services be arranged?
Okay, if the scenario, remember there's two scenarios. Scenario one is much more likely if the governor continues in phase 4 with 50, maybe 100 if we stretch it for religious institutions. There's no way we can do enough shifts to get everybody in the building. So if that scenario obtains all the way through high holidays, then we will not have shifts. However, if for some reason the governor changes course and does allow for larger groups to come into our sanctuary, and we will then have to determine with the regulations as they're set out by the governor, what's the maximum amount of people that we can have in the sanctuary? And not just the sanctuary, pass it, Goldberg Auditorium, the whole huge room. And then we'll have to create shifts, but the shifts will only be in that building. So, you know, let's just give a scenario. Maybe there would be one service that would be 8:30 to 10:30, and then another service that would be 11:30 to 1:30, something like that. Obviously, the services would have to be truncated a bit more. Remembering, for those of you who are like me, very dedicated to making sure you do all the prayers, the PU team, the liturgical poems, none of them are obligatory, even if they're very traditional. So we'd probably have to shorten around some of those type of prayers. But we would make sure that we were running services that fulfilled all the religious obligations, was safely distanced for everyone to be able to be safe inside the building, only if the medical task force and the governor's plan allows for it. But that's how we would do it, and we'd have to clean in between the two services. So all of those things are being outlined in planning. Obviously, we've thought about them all, but not every detail has been worked out yet. And I hope that you'll be patient with us.
Thank you. Dr. Kopin, this one is for you and the medical task force. Would the medical task force approve, that is there any problem for our vulnerable members who may be feeling isolated and alone to schedule a short meeting outside the shul, while of course keeping physical distance in place as well as wearing masks?
Yes. Rabbi Schwab and I actually have discussed this week. We think we absolutely should be able to accommodate that. With proper physical distancing and the wearing of masks, being outside, for some of our seniors in particular, other vulnerable congregants, we should be able to begin to accommodate the possibility for people to start to get together. Again, we know how very important that is, and we want the shul to be a place where these individuals can start to get together again with their friends.
Thank you. Jeff Baden, this is a question about facilities. Will youth groups be able to meet for programs in the synagogue building?
So my answer is, while it is conceivable and definitely possible for groups to get together, the question is really the quality of the program that we're looking for. So if you can imagine that, you know, we would have to space our kids out in the youth group 6 feet apart with a mask on, is that going to make for a better program than perhaps doing it on Zoom where they can all see each other and interact? Those are the questions that our program staff are going to have to decide before making a decision to actually bring a program into the building. And again, we also need permission from our medical task force in order to do the same thing. But, you know, as Rabbi Schwab and I believe both of us said, we're looking for the best quality programs possible at Bethel, and I think we want to take that into consideration, you know, for any youth group program that we offer as well.
Rabbi Schwab, are there Bethel families that need help in various ways? How might we assist?
I love that question. We have done a great job, I think, of trying to reach out to people and help. And so anybody else who's willing to be a part of that, we're thrilled to have you. So there's a number of ways that you can help. First of all, our amazing Chazak committee, along with General, we have a caring committee and some people from the membership group. They're making calls, and Rabbi Freedman's been amazing at this too, to a lot of our members who we've identified are isolated or vulnerable or in need. And we have been purchasing meals for them. We have been going shopping for them. We have been bringing them medical supplies. We've been bringing them things that they need. And we've just been trying to call and chat and just make sure that they're not as isolated and don't feel as alone as they might be because they're vulnerable and they're not able to go out. So if you want to be a part of that, great. If you want to donate money to our Chazak committee to help continue to do things for people and help people out, or you want to donate to my discretionary fund, I'm helping a bunch of people who are struggling during this time period to put food on the table, to pay their medical bills, to pay their rent. We will take it. And whatever wonderful act of chesed that you do for another, is just, it's multiplied in effect and so appreciated. So you can be in contact with me, you can be in contact with Rabbi Freedman, you can be in contact with Jackie Mellinger or Mary Ellen Bowers. And there's a number of other people who are involved, and there's so many ways that we can get you involved to help. So thank you so much for the question, and I'd love to have as many people as possible help out with this effort.
That question is so indicative of the type of people we have here, asking not just tonight, but for the last couple of months, and working behind the scenes to help out however we can. Rabbi Schwab, again, for you, this is about high holiday services. Will there be any service at the high school?
Unfortunately, no. There's not going to be any service at the high school. When we were looking at the scenarios of what could play out according to the phasing plans of the governor, it was already very clear, and it is playing out that way, that it would, unless he really changed his mind and his course of action, there would be really no way for us to have that many people inside of a room. And the expense of doing the high school and arranging for another service when we wouldn't be able to have more than 50 people, maybe 100 now in the room, seemed like it didn't make any sense at the time. And then there's another consideration. The high school actually couldn't guarantee that they would want all these outside people in their building during the school year. I'm not sure that today, even if we called them and asked them if we could re-up and use the high school, that they would let us. They were definitely not able to guarantee that either. So being that their willingness was tentative and our need was in question, we've decided not to have services at the high school, and we're going to focus all of our efforts on the sanctuary service.
For Dr. Kopin, you mentioned that people over 65 should not be in the building. What do we do about teachers who are over 65?
Yeah, there is guidance from the Centers for Disease Control dealing with explicitly for teachers who are over the age of 65. There are ways to protect them in the classroom, and that will be our intent, to follow the best guidance for teachers who are over 65.
For Rabbi Schwab, will the mitzvah of hearing the shofar be accepted if we have services streamed? And I'll add, what are some thoughts being planned for hearing the shofar in Rosh Hashanah?
In truth, Rabbi Freedman is the best person to answer this question, but I'll take it anyway. Technically, the mitzvah of hearing the shofar does need to be live and in person. So if if that was the basis behind your question, you're right. And so therefore, hearing it over the live stream is spiritually amazing and beautiful, and I hope it touches your heart. But to fulfill the actual mitzvah, you do need to hear a shofar live and in person. Right now, what we're planning to, which is Rabbi Freedman's great idea, is to arrange for various neighborhood shofar blowings on the second day of Rosh Hashanah. I don't know if it's fortuitous or what the right word is, but the first day of Rosh Hashanah is Shabbos. So you don't actually blow the shofar on Shabbat anyway. So we're all exempt from the mitzvah on that day. So it's really the second day that we need to be concerned about. And our plan is to have neighborhood shofar blowings that hopefully people can attend in person. By the way, as a backup, if you can't even, make a neighborhood shofar blowing, if anybody is able to blow shofar, even yourself, but if anybody can blow shofar in your presence during that time period, that would also fulfill the mitzvah of the shofar because it's intended for that mitzvah. And as a backup, we've had for a number of years been blowing shofar for people that are isolated or in nursing homes in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, when we can drive individually to people's homes. And if you are isolated and you do need somebody to blow shofar for you in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, please, please, please let us know, and we will make sure that a wonderful Baal Tekiah shofar blower comes and blows shofar for you so that everyone can fulfill the mitzvah.
Thank you, Rabbi Schwab. And there's enough time for anyone who wants to learn to actually get a shofar and practice. There are a lot of good teachers on YouTube. Rabbi Schwab, question for you. This is about the occupancy of 50 and how it affects regular services. When will Beth El be open for regular morning, afternoon, evening services if 50 people are now allowed? What about Shabbat services? What about signing up for Shabbat services or Friday night Kabbalat Shabbat?
Great. All these questions are being considered. as Jeff Baden and I think Dr. Kopin stated, we want to do everything slowly, cautiously, and with safety in mind. So certain things are technically allowed, but not everything is always advisable. So as Dr. Kopin mentioned, we are not yet ready to let people inside the building. There's a different risk factor for people inside of a building because of the air circulation system and everything as opposed to being outside. So that's why we are holding daily outdoor minyanim. And should we continue to get requests that, boost our minyan, beyond the 10, that would be wonderful. Now we can accommodate more people outside. There isn't a limit on 10. And should we see that they're very robust and that we can count on getting an outdoor minyan, we can continue to expand that, as we continue to have the numbers to justify it. We are looking to transition to inside the building after summer services, as I mentioned before. So once summer services are done, we will try to have 50 people inside the sanctuary during Shabbos, and we're going to have to figure out exactly how we're going to do that. Certainly we'll include the leaders and those who are needed to run the service, and we'll have to come up with a system to perhaps allow others to join us. On Shabbatot, where there is a bar or bat mitzvah, we will, of course, prioritize the family of the bar and bat mitzvah, because we have had a town hall meeting specifically with the B'nai Mitzvah families. As you can probably imagine, if your child was becoming bar or bat mitzvah, this would be a very stressful time and wondering what that would look like. So we're committed to making it amazing for them too, and making sure their families can participate as well. But we are exploring those questions, and we will continue to update you on how we're going to handle that in the future.
Thank you. We have time for 2 more questions, and then I will share some closing remarks. Jeff Baden, a question about facilities. What about access to the library?
So I would actually tag my answer on to what Rabbi Schwab just said. We are, not ready yet to open the building, and we will probably do that after the summer. And I think the best thing to do is, if you have interest in using the library, that's definitely something that would be a very small group of people. It might be something we can accommodate. Please feel free to, I'll put it on my list to talk with the medical task force about, but you can also let Rachel Kamen know of your interest, and we can kind of keep a list and see who might be interested in accessing the library from time to time.
Thank you. Rabbi Schwab, this one's for you. If my family member wishes to chant Torah over the holidays, will they be given that chance? Possibly virtually. Would the Torah reading only be those who are physically at the shul?
So I'm going to answer that, and then I have an addition to a couple of the other things that I mentioned, and the last question about the library. So yes, if you are interested in reading Torah, we'd love for you to read Torah. But yes, the Torah reading that we do during the holidays will be done live in the sanctuary on the Bima, again, with all the appropriate protocols. So if your child or you are interested in reading Torah, and that aliyah is available, and you end up reading Torah, you and your immediate family will be able to come to the sanctuary. You will read Torah from the Bima in a safe environment, and it'll be lovely. So yes, we encourage you to do that if you feel comfortable coming to the sanctuary to do so. I also just want to add about Kabbalat Shabbat services. I've spoken to a number of people about this. We do have a plan to try to introduce Kabbalat Shabbat services in person, whether it be on the back lawn or whether it be in the parking lot. There are 2 different ways of perhaps imagining it. But we would love to provide a Friday night service that's outdoors for people. Friday night's easier because you're not reading Torah. You don't have to pull out the Torah, and if it rains and whatever is happening. And it's also a shorter service than Saturday morning. So it's a bit easier for us to be able to do in-person, live, and outside. But that is something actually we're working on envisioning as well. And finally, I just want to say about whether it's the library or other particular requests, our staff has been really accommodating if there are things from the building that you need. For example, people have called us all the time if they can use a Siddur. Yes, we were happy to give you a Siddur. Chazan Barnett has been amazing. She'll meet anybody, leave it for them, however you want to do it. Of course, we've had people who have requests for certain books. So Rachel Kamen, you know, she and Marcy, they know where the book is. There should be somebody in the synagogue. They can pull it for you. We can make an arrangement for you to come individually. We can leave it out for you, and you can pick it up, and we can check it out for you. So while there might be a protocol for actually entering yourself and perusing the shelf, if you actually know what book you want, and our list of books is online, you can make arrangements, and we're always trying to accommodate people whatever we can with whatever resources we have at the shul.
Thank you. And in closing, I want to thank our panelists, not just for speaking tonight, but for working so hard behind the scenes to plan during this very unpredictable time. And thanks to all of you for tuning in this important evening. If you have a question about something that was said tonight, please email one of us and we will be in touch. We plan to write up a summary of tonight's comments, which will be shared with the congregation in an email soon. We also plan to organize a forum in August with further updates. During this challenging time, may we all gain strength from being part of this wonderful community. Thank you, and Laila Tov.
Laila Tov, everyone. Thank you so much for your interest, for coming, and for being a part of this amazing Bethel community. Sending love to everyone.
Everybody, Laila Tov.
Laila Tov.
Good night, everyone.